Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tennessee Twos Disc Golf Podcast. My name is Daniel Bacon. Across from me is my co host, Ethan Jenkins. And we have reached what episode are we on now?
12.
12. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. I can't believe it.
3 months.
Um, yeah, this has been an incredible ride. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the podcast. We got some thank yous to dish out on one of the events that we went and talked to some of you guys.
For
That
sure.
was really cool.
Yeah.
But today we get to recap LVC, and we're pretty excited about that. I'm gonna do a quick little roll call. Nothing special, nothing, unwarranted this week. We've got a little bit of news from MVP this week we're going to talk about, and then we're going to recap LVC, and that's going to include a couple of new segments. And then we're going to have a couple of new segments going on later as well. And then we're going to recap our tournament that we played on Saturday together as well, the Tennessee State Doubles Championship.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and kick it off right away with our MVP news. I don't know if you saw this yet, but I'm pretty sure you did.
Yep.
MVP has signed their contract now to officially sponsor the MVP Open at Maple Hill for 10 more years
Yeah, that's
and
big.
continue. Yeah, it's massive. Continue what they've been doing out there. They've been doing an absolute fantastic job, and I'm super excited to hear that. They're gonna keep bringing it with that tournament every year.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was a very smart move on MVP side. Um, Especially with Maple Hill possibly being the playoff central
Right,
moving forward. You know what I mean? Because
right.
playoffs, just like every other sport, playoffs bring new eyes. It's like everybody starts getting paying more attention during the playoffs, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's great to have your name centerfold of
Yeah.
one of the playoff tournaments. That's
A-
huge.
And and because of, everything that they're kind of doing with making it something of a playoff event there, I don't think they ever really have to worry about like Worlds coming in and taking that event out of the swing too often or Champions
Right.
Cup. They're probably going to be pretty set in stone, just like Hornets Nest is the championship event. We know that they're going to be there probably for the foreseeable future. So locking that in for 10 years, great move by them. Absolutely.
Yep.
All
I
right.
agree.
Then we're just going to keep it rolling right into LVC. So, first thing we want to do is congratulate the winners. It was an
Spoiler
awesome
alert.
performance. Awesome performance. If you guys are here and you haven't seen it and you don't want to, I'm going to give you 3 seconds to click off right now.
All right, that's it.
That's
You
it.
had enough
That's all
time.
you got.
Yep. We're lucky that
Um,
you're lucky you got 3 seconds. This is Tennessee Twos. We should have done 2 seconds. oh
there was 2 and 1 for good measure.
yeah, yeah. One to grow
All
on.
right. Yeah, exactly. So congratulations to Katrina Allen taking it down there, 237 overall strokes over 4 rounds. Beat out Paige Pierce by just 1 stroke.
Yep.
Congratulations to her. And then over on the MPO side, Drew Gibson went into a playoff with Gannon Burr, both of them finishing their 4 rounds with 201 strokes. So great job, Drew. Great job, uh, Katrina Allen. Really great performances out there. Proud of you. What a great way for both of you guys to start your seasons. Congratulations on Drew specifically for taking down his first Elite Series event.
Right.
That is absolutely huge. We know we've seen it for the last year or so that he's truly capable of doing this,
Yeah.
and it's a huge step forward for him, especially in the confidence department. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just a I know I have it in me to do this, which is where he was at the Pro Tour. It's now I've done this, and I can continue to put these types of rounds together when it really matters.
It looks like he um took stride, after the tour championship. Uh there at the end. I mean, really the last round he was killing it, you know. And
Yeah.
it looks like he didn't really miss a beat. He came back out and played very consistent. Um, did you know that after the first round, I know there's not a whole lot of scoring separation on the Infinite course,
No.
but he was in 42nd place after the
Yeah.
first round.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild to think about. He was only 5 strokes back, but that's a
Now
lot in between, you know.
he he was six strokes back of the tie.
Oh, 6 strokes back. Yep.
6 strokes back because the hot round was 11. He finished with 5.
Oh yeah, that's right. He
Um,
finished with 5. Yep.
but I mean, he just absolutely killed it out there. I want to say that his final round went down as um, it was either 1070 or 1090 rated on day 4
Right.
out there on the Innova course.
Yeah, it was a great
Um,
round by him.
yeah, and he looked really comfortable on the Innova course for both rounds as well because, he should have shot under 50 on the Infinite course, and he didn't. And then on round 3, he should have shot probably around 50, um, and he was a couple of strokes off of the lead there. But on the Innova course, both days he shot a 48.
Right.
So I mean that's outrageous.
It played well
So
for him.
absolutely,
And his
he
putts.
really knew.
His putts
Oh
were
yeah,
on.
that little like step hop putt thing that he's got going is
He
just
literally sends
deadly.
you know, not latitude, but he does send a dagger like
Yeah,
straight into the chains and just it plops down.
yeah,
He puts a move on it.
um, yeah. I mean, there's not much else to say. And as for Katrina, over on the FPO side, we'll talk about her for a few seconds. Um, she was really clean. I mean, the biggest tail of the tape for me was the fact that she really only took a couple of OBs all 4 days,
Yes.
if I remember correctly.
She stayed very
Um,
clean. Yeah.
yeah, she only took 8 OBs the whole weekend, and that includes hazards when
Yep.
it's marked on UDisc. And a hazard counts as an OB. And that's outrageous out on those courses that are just riddled with them all over the places. I mean, there are places where you can still birdie from the hazard if you place
Yeah.
it well enough. And, she went out there and she kept herself really clean. She stalled a little bit in round 3. She didn't play horribly, but she definitely did not play to her potential. But she came roaring back in round 4 to make sure that she had a chance going into the final few holes.
Right. I'm not gonna. I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little worried. When I seen her round 3, and I seen that. Oh, they're back.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like all the separation that she had built, gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I'm glad to see that that didn't bite her. In the end, but she did very, very well.
Right. And I mean, round 3 was where she had that probably the biggest blow up she really had all weekend with going double OB on hole 6.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just took her out of chance and, missed the scramble stat on that. And then she took an OB on her other bogey that round as well, but really just very pedestrian outside of that. Um, Hitting a lot of circle 2s as opposed to getting it in circle 1s. She missed the fairway a few times as well. But yeah, just not super great. But on Sunday, she
Yeah,
just she
she
wrecked it.
came out and made sure that that's what she wanted. She put her foot down.
Yeah,
I'm
got a little
about it.
aggressive got a
Yeah,
little aggressive on a couple of holes and hurt her a little bit, but she needed to be aggressive on
she did.
day 4 after the day 3 she had. So,
Yep, I agree.
um, yeah, so we're gonna roll on over into a new segment. It's not gonna be right here every week. We'll explain a little more about it, but it's gonna be right here because of the particular topic that
Right.
it is today. But we're gonna start a new topic called Daniel's drama.
Yes.
Um, it wasn't even thought of by me. It was thought of by Ethan over here. But if you guys haven't noticed, I'm a very dramatic person, and I always take things one step too far in terms of drama. So now we're starting to think maybe we could find the most dramatic thing that happened throughout the weekend, and
Uh,
I'm gonna
shoot.
complain about it.
Yeah, let you rant.
I'm gonna
Just
rant,
get it out.
And
This
yeah,
is your one
so
chance a week that I'll sit here and
and
enjoy
and
it.
listen, and I want you to talk about it too. This is
Yeah, I
just
will.
I'm picking up the topic. I'm gonna rant about it a little bit, but we're gonna hear from Ethan as well.
Yeah.
But Daniel's drama this week, sponsored by nobody. We don't have any sponsors for this segment yet. Someday maybe. I don't know.
Hey, yeah, you never know.
um, but our topic is Gannon Burr's upshot on hole 18, round 4. I immediately complained about this as soon as I saw him do it. So when I was sitting there this morning and I was like, what's going to be Daniel's drama today? It had to be that because it was the first thing I said when it happened. I just immediately started ranting. So I'm going to tell you guys my rant. Um, Going into that hole, I want you guys to remember that Drew Gibson was one stroke back. It was not tied. He was one stroke back going into hole 18.
Yep.
Um, Gannon stayed clean of OB on his drive, which was already one of the hardest things to do.
And in
And
fashion, by the way.
yeah,
I mean, it got an amazing skip, you know.
yeah. And I watched this shot and I thought there was no way that he could mess this up. All he had to do was just basically pitch it up there and force Drew to basically either throw it in to send it to a playoff or to accept second place. If you guys didn't see it, what happened was is he threw over the top of the hill um, and slid off OB deep. Now,
Yeah.
the reason why I'm calling this Daniel's drama this week is because that hole where he was throwing up to plays as a hill with the basket on the top of the hill. So he really had one job. He had to leave it short, 15 feet or so, let the hill grab his disc and just knock it down. And instead, he got a little over aggressive for my fashion and he threw it over the top, slid OB, and that's really what gave Drew the chance to lay it up. And he parked it, made the birdie, and then Gannon had to make his pressure putt from the OB spot to send it to the playoff.
Right.
Now, Gannon is very young, and I want you guys to understand I am not discounting anything he did this weekend. It was spectacular to watch him play this weekend. He was
Really was.
slinging putts left and right. People were tweeting stuff like, somebody needs to check his discs to see if they're regulation
Yeah.
because he can't miss a putt right now. You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
he was
he
phenomenal. Even from a
he
knee.
was,
He
yeah,
was
he was,
doing crazy contortionist stuff. You know what I mean? And he was just slinging putts and it was on a beeline right to the basket every time and I'm just like, he can't miss.
yeah,
He can't
yeah.
miss.
If you know when you got to, I mean, he kept himself right at in the hunt for the first 2 rounds, and in the third round he just took over, and he kept that going all the way through about hole 14 of the last round as well. And he got a little bit stagnant there from 15 through 18.
Yeah,
Um, and I think the biggest thing is that this is going to be a huge learning moment for him.
I agree.
um, Understanding what's expected of the situation. I'm not sure if he didn't know the score at that exact moment, which I'm sure he did. I mean, you kind of have to, I feel like, going into hole 18. But I don't think he, being as young and inexperienced in terms of the Pro Tour as he is, I don't think he completely understood the situation in front of him and what was required of that shot. So I think he just got a little too aggressive. It could have even just been a misrelease for all I know. It's very
It could have been
possible.
very well been nerves.
Hmm.
Um, it's hard to believe it was nerves because of how good he
Calm
had
and
done
collected.
the entire tournament. But it's a little different when your first toy pro tour victory is right there in front of you. You know what I mean?
Right.
We'll never know that feeling, so it's hard to say. But
Exactly. And the other thing is too is I don't want to go out there and say I don't want to say it was nerves because honestly he looked good in the
mhm,
playoffs too.
he
You
did.
know, you missed one shot by a little bit that gave, Drew a chance to take that. But the playoffs, I think he played it fine. He looked good. He looked under control. So I don't want to say it was pressure on 18, although it could have been. I think he just got a little aggressive. I don't know that he got greedy, but he definitely
Right.
got aggressive because if he lays that up, anywhere inside the circle short, you have based on how he was putting this whole weekend,
You made
you
Drew
f-
have to make a choice.
he has to.
Yep.
There's no choice at that point anymore. It's either I'm taking a chance at winning this and risking a bogey for it, or I'm laying up and taking second place,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to really explain that. And that was the most disappointing thing for me to watch this whole weekend was just watching him come so close and just making a bad decision. Really
Yeah.
is what I thought it came down to. I don't know. Maybe you should have disked down a little bit, took a little speed off of it. But that hill plays tall in front of him, so kicks the hill and he stays put.
Yeah.
That's the moral of the story. That
Yeah.
being said, the one thing that we've learned throughout the weekend, regardless of that one shot, Gannonbers are forced to be reckoned with.
Yeah. Um,
Like,
and one of the scary things is he shows up in the woods too.
yeah,
Like it's this kid is going to be good as long as he stays together and keeps his mind straight. Like
I'm not
he's
I'm
already
not even
good, but
yeah,
like
I was good. That's what I was gonna say. I mean, I last year we all looked at him, we said this kid's going to be good.
yeah,
His performance today or this weekend moved him from the this kid's going to be good category to this kid is here.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's
I
that's
mean,
really
he was against the top level of the top level, other than Paul. Um, and he just kind of demolished. I mean, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
he was there. He
yeah,
forced
he really did.
even with Gannon parring out basically the last four holes. He made Drew play the absolute perfect back nine that he could just to go to a playoff.
Yep.
I you know what I mean? And that was one of the things which I really did appreciate by Drew shouting Gannon out. Uh he knew what it meant to him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's one of those things like Drew had kind of he couldn't feel bad for taking the win, so he had to do it in a good
No,
sportsmanship um
and he did.
in a good sportsmanship act, right?
He balanced it very well.
Because if he had won against Ricky per se, it's a completely different story. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's going crazy doing all that stuff, and especially on your first pro tour win. Um I I thought it was very, very, very good of Drew to make the post, to go over, talk to Gannon, and tell him everything's good and
Absolutely.
mhm.
Um, all right. So we're gonna go into this one's another new segment. We're gonna call this one "Tale of the Tapes," and this one's really just gonna be where we kind of break down whether or where like the top performers, either went right or wrong to win or lose the tournament.
Right.
We're gonna start real quick with Drew Gibson and Gannon Burr because I really want to look at it. We don't talk as much about stats in disc golf as a lot of other sports do, but it's starting to move that way,
Hmm.
and we want to take our piece out. And this is going to be our new segment is Tale of the Tapes, and this is all going to be stat related. So we're going to talk about some of the things that they did that might have made or broke their weekend, if you will.
Yep.
Um, the first thing that I want to point out is the circle ones in regulation. Drew Gibson had 61% circle ones in regulation, which was second in the entire tournament. Gannon Burr was 46%, which ranked him at 35th,
Right.
right? And then the park percentages were about that spread as well. Drew Gibson parked 26% and Gannon Burr parked 12%. And that's something that we've noticed a couple of times in some of the past like awards that we've talked about are just, when you're parking it and you're getting it into circle one in regulation, you're always increasing your chances to win. And Drew Gibson went out there and he did that,
Yep.
and he did it extremely well. Um, and then the other one that you kind of want to talk about with that is they both actually tied at 45% circle two putts.
Which
Um,
surprised me, to be honest.
yes, and it did, but his circle two, both of their circle two putting looked phenomenal. We know that Drew can be deadly with his step hop putt,
Yeah.
and then Gannon Buhr's just a gunslinger from anywhere.
Really?
He's scary. Just but that just goes to show you how important it can be for you when you go out there to get yourself into circle one. When you're out at this level, circle one really changes the game for you, because I mean, if you take a couple of those circle twos from Gannon and you move them into circle one, that probably was a two-stroke swing for
Yeah.
him.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just,
And what's scary is that just gives Gannon something to improve on.
yeah,
You know what I mean? He
absolutely.
can look at that and be like, okay, well, this is what I need to do. I need to work on long distance accuracy. And,
Yeah,
it's good now, but it can be dialed just a little bit more.
right.
Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and look at the FPO sides,
Yep.
um, and see what they did. Give me a second. It's gonna take me a second to open these up.
So, Paige and Katrina, I haven't looked at the stats, but I'm going to assume that Paige has quite a bit more OB. And that is per usual for Paige. She's just a way more aggressive player.
Yes. So that's the first one I want to call out, because and part of the reason I want to call out OBs for Paige here is that we know she's aggressive and she's one of the most aggressive players out
Mm-hmm.
there. But a few of them, I would say at least four or five that I watched on coverage, were completely unnecessary. They didn't gain her anything by getting to that type of an aggressive throw. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's really what the biggest difference was. And again, you had a little bit of separation in circle one. So we'll start with that. Circle ones in regulation, you had 56% for Katrina and 50% um, for
Paige.
Paige, whereas Paige did beat her in circle twos, which was 76 to 72%.
Is that not
Um,
crazy? Those are,
that's going to be the distance talking for Paige. So, when you get out
yeah.
to some of those longer par threes, that circle two in regulation is going to be a little easier for her to hit and have more eagle bids than most of the FPO players.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's not a surprise. But that being said, Katrina outputted her
In circle two for
on
sure.
circle two by
Yeah.
quite a lot, percentage wise. Technically, Paige made more, but it was a lower percentage because she was putting from circle two a lot more often. Um, but specifically OBs, she took five more OBs than Katrina did, and that's five strokes right
Yeah.
there, just by itself. You're talking that you shave off one or two of those OBs. Like I said, a few of them were completely unnecessary and
Yep.
didn't benefit her in any way to take. And you take just two of those back, and she wins.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Even if she goes out there and she pars from that OB or from not taking the OB as opposed to taking a birdie, it's still better than taking that bogey.
That's why they say every throw is as important as the next.
Absolutely.
Every single one.
100%. 100%. So those are really your tails of the tapes. Circle ones and park percentages for Drew really kind of gave him a big edge there. And then the OB rate was a huge killer for Paige. And Katrina staying mostly safe. I mean, she only took one OB for the first 2 days altogether. That was outstanding for her. And she
Mm-hmm.
limited the damage even when she wasn't having her best rounds, i.e., round three. So there it is. That's your tale of the tapes this week.
Yep. And I think that was a pretty good recap. as well. Kind of let you know uh, how the top folded over, so to speak.
Yeah, they're a really good way to kind of explain, you know, there's a lot of reasons why people who weren't up there in the lead at the end weren't there. But what was the big difference between the top two? What really made that difference?
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's uh that's going to be that. Now we're going to move on. And this is something we might do when we recap tournaments. We might, change up some of these topics. But this week we're going to talk about um, our most underrated and our most disappointing performances of the weekend. We're going to start off with the underrated performance of the weekend.
Yep.
Um,
You go ahead and start
and
it off if you'd like.
I'm going to start, yeah, and I'm going to start with MPO. Then we'll kick it over to you, kick it back to me for FPO, okay?
All right.
Uh, Luke Humphreys,
That was a good one.
underrated performance of the weekend. Dude finished 4 strokes off the lead, tied for fourth. And that's a place that we don't see Luke Humphreys a whole lot, hardly ever.
Yeah.
I mean, he went out there. We'll just talk about round 4 in particular. He went out there and shot a 48, which tied the hot round on the day and ended up being somewhere in the 1070 to 1090 rated round, unofficial. But he went bogey free, took an eagle, only parred 6 holes. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And I mean, he didn't play bad at all in any course this weekend, in my opinion.
No, he did really
Um,
great.
I think if we look at round 1, he took 2 bogeys and stayed really clean and above or below par for the rest of it. Um, took a bogey and a double bogey in round 2, but still finished with a -8. He really slayed out there that day as well. Took an 8 down on the factory course with a single bogey. And not only did he go bogey free, but he improved on his score on the Innova course from his first round, which means he made adjustments out there and he's making knowledgeable adjustments.
Yep.
Because if I remember correctly, round 4's conditions were tougher than round 2's on Innova. I think it was a little windier. But yeah, I mean, 13 down, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, he shot a fire round. Him and Kev, you know,
Yeah,
Calvin did too, and Drew.
okay,
There was some.
they sure did.
Oh, now that I'm looking at it, there was a lot of 13 downs
It
that last
was
round.
people came to play on Sunday,
Yes,
which
they
is really
did.
exciting because if that continues all year long,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a great season.
Yeah.
So why don't you give us your MPO underrated?
So I I have two, and I was surprised that you didn't take one of mine. To be honest, but I'm gonna go with my first one, and that's Colton Montgomery. Um, he finished tied for 12th. Um, he absolutely slayed out there. Um, round 1, round 4, big moves. Um, round 2 actually was his kind of downfall. Um,
Right.
unfortunately, he shot a 55 round 2, but he stayed really consistent. Didn't take very many OBs at all. Um, he was 100% circle 1X putting.
Wow.
And I wanted to point that stat out. That's a rare stat that you see is C1X 100%. Um, and
Yeah.
usually you're gonna finish pretty well if you can do that. However, his circle 2 was only 20%. Um, but I was very happy to see Colton up there, tied for 12th. Um, he, I feel like nobody really talks about Colton um, being in contention. Um, And
No, but I had my eye on him a couple of times when I was watching him move up the leaderboards.
yeah, I like seeing guys like that move up. You know what I mean? It gives
Right.
that parity, and I'm just like, oh, maybe he can do it. And it was the same way with
Right.
Luke too. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, he was my underrated. And my second underrated was Scott Withers. Um, I
I he was my second choice too.
Yeah, Scott Withers. I feel like everybody knows that on the West Coast he is a force to be reckoned with. So that was the reason he was my second choice. He did end up tied for seventh. Um, and it's kind of like Colton as well. Round two was his downfall. He shot a 56.
Right.
Um, but his entire let's see here. Yeah, so he was able to save par 100% of the time. His scramble rate was 100%. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
What
So,
what was that? What was that out of? Do you know?
see, I don't know what it was out of, but it says that his fairway hits are only 61%. So, I feel like it's a lot.
Let me see here.
But yeah, 100% scramble rate is kind of crazy.
That was for Scott.
Yeah, Scott Withers. Um, Ben says Colton's putter, the Arctic Fang, is nice. I haven't got to test it out. Does it compare to
Yeah.
like a P2 style or P1 style? Or is it like a different putter altogether?
So he missed 3 scrambles the whole weekend for that 73% scramble rate.
Oh, this was just on round four. He hit
Ah,
100%.
okay. Well, I mean, 73% scramble rate
I'm
still put him
assuming
up at
round
seven.
two is probably what kind of kicked him off there.
I mean,
But
he
yeah,
only took five OBs the whole weekend, and that is not easy to
that's
do
not easy to do.
um, at
But yeah,
LVC.
we've seen a lot of great performances in both MPO and FPO.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
all right,
yeah,
I'm gonna
because
go
I
ahead and
mean, if
kick it over back to you and tell me what your FPO underrated is.
all right, I have two. I think one of them might be one of yours, so I'm gonna go with the other one. I'm gonna say Cat Merch.
Mm.
Um, she had a really good weekend. She, unfortunately, in round one specifically, started off really hot and faltered down at the end, finishing only at a -2. Um, but she kept her head in the game and went out there and shot a 6 down on Innova the last day. And she stayed even or under par all 4 days, which is not something we've seen a whole lot from her. And especially at a course like this, it's definitely some distance for her.
Right.
She's not the hardest thrower, so to go out there and finish tied for ninth with a 12 down over the whole weekend, I was really impressed with it. I did not expect to see her on the leaderboard where she finished, especially after that blow up on the end of the first round. I thought she might lose it for the whole tournament and end up missing the cut, and she didn't. Ben says it's a beaded neutral, slightly stable.
Okay.
All
Beaded.
right, that would explain why I wouldn't haven't tried it, as I don't do beaded.
Yeah. I hadn't had much luck with the beaded myself, but I did start putting with the AVR X a little bit, and it is beaded, and I was doing pretty well with it, but I didn't stick with it. I don't know. But okay, so the thing about cat merch that I don't really know. I was very surprised, I guess, um, seeing her come out after round one and being up towards the top. Um, so that is an underrated performance. She kind of fell back off round two and round three, especially. But then you started
Right.
seeing her creep back up the leaderboard, and she was making a run for it. You know, so I definitely see her as a very good underrated performance.
Yeah.
You're a beaded kind of guy or not? You right. You
You
right.
do you, boo. You do you, boo boo.
But um, yeah, you actually didn't take mine, um, which that's awesome because I didn't have anything else prepared. Um, but mine is also my dark horse pick from last week, which is Rebecca Cox. Um,
I wish
her,
I could show you guys my screen right now because I had her stats pulled up because I said I have two. I know one of them is probably your pick. That was my backup.
yeah,
That was actually my first pick was Rebecca Cox, but I knew it was
yeah.
yours, so I went for another one.
I think Rebecca Cox is here to play this year. She's got her putt. She's found it. I don't know how she does her loft putt in the wind and make it still drop into the basket, but she does. um, she's got it figured out. Her putt is awesome. Um, she is not the strongest from Circle 2, but she's an approach assassin. Um, she puts it in Circle 1 a lot on her second shots and approaches. So she's
Right.
a very consistent player. I think when we get to a little bit of a shorter course, something that suits, and don't get me wrong, she can throw. She just doesn't have the elite distance that Katrina and Paige has. Um,
Right.
but when we get to a little shorter course, maybe a little more technical course, I'm excited to see Rebecca play. I think we will be seeing her on several lead cards this year, and that excites me. I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Um, one of the things I wanted to kind of point out, and I'm going to point it out for Rebecca as well, as long as she played. So, Cat Merch last year at LVC finished tied for 39th with a score of 26 over. She didn't even make the cut for the last day.
Huge
And to
improvement.
go out there and to finish, you know, number one play all 4 days, and then to play all 4 days under par. Granted, last year's Las Vegas Challenge was much windier than this year's. I
Yes.
will give it that. It was much tougher conditions, but that's still a massive. That's 20 uh 20 plus place improvement,
Yeah.
right? Um, so let's pull up uh Rebecca's as well.
And this is also with the world here. Europeans are here too. You
Yes,
know, the competition is definitely more stiff.
yeah, and I mean I kind of, and that's why I avoided. I intentionally didn't even look at any of the European players because they have such high expectations on their
Yeah.
shoulders. There's no way that I could have picked one for an underrated performance.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
so Rebecca actually went down a couple of positions, but her score still improved by 9 strokes.
Right.
So again, there were some conditions that were a lot tougher last year. But one of the things that I wanted to point out that I saw out of Rebecca this year, there's been a lot of changes in her form, not just
Yes.
from putting, but specifically also from her backhand throwing.
Mhm.
And she is getting distance that she has never had before
Yep.
this year. And it's really exciting to see that because that means that on days where she can go out there and put it all together, she's going to be competing with those throwers like Katrina and Paige all year long.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting to see that backhand improve as much as it did this off season for me.
You know, another thing that I'd like to point out about Rebecca, um, I feel like she might. This could help or hurt her, but Nathan Queen having to drop out of the tournament this past weekend because of shoulder problems.
Right.
Um, I feel like he's going to miss a couple of events, and I would not doubt it if we don't see Nathan Queen on her bag. Do you think that that helps her?
Um, yes. I mean, it's always helpful to have somebody who's knowledgeable on the bag. But really, I think it's her play style that's going to help her more than anything.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's what she's done to her game this offseason, and that's going to be the biggest advancement for her. Unfortunately, and we don't have too much information on Nathan
Nathan
Queen. I mean,
Queen.
we didn't even know about what his dropout was for until yesterday.
Yeah.
To begin with, nobody even talked about it. I couldn't find it anywhere on coverage as to why he dropped out. So hopefully he gets better quick.
Yes. Make sure
I'm
he
sure
takes the
he's
time to heal that shoulder. Make sure that
yes,
it's good before he comes back. Because
and again, because we don't know how much, like, whether he dropped out preventatively, like, thinking to himself, hey, this is a long season, I don't want to hurt it anymore here, or if it's bad enough that he's really got to put up his shoes and
yeah,
take a break.
he
um
was. I mean, he was still in contention.
mhm,
So I feel like it was. It had to be something there. You know what I mean? I don't. I don't.
yeah,
It was definitely an issue, or else um, he wouldn't have
yeah,
dropped out.
absolutely. So yeah, let's keep it rolling forward here. Let's talk about our most disappointing performance of the weekend.
Yep. Uh, for my MPO, um, I wouldn't um be surprised if you hadn't guessed it. Scott Stokely is my disappointing performance of the weekend. I know he was disappointed. Um, he I don't pay out for. Yes, he did. Um, but yeah, Scott Stokely is. I know that he's having to come in to a brand new scene compared to what he had played before. We all know that. But he had threw out the confidence of he was going to finish in the top 50% in every Pro Tour event.
Right.
And he didn't do that on the very first event. Um, so in my mind, that's disappointing. I would have loved to seen him up there giving it a run. Um, you know, he has the arm talent. It's just
Right.
getting everything put back together. And I think that after he gets back into the tour life a little bit, he'll start making some finishes up towards the top.
Yeah, absolutely. And to go out there and be your big first performance, you kind of have to consider that that's a pretty tough course to go out and make your return on, because you have to consider all of the OBs that he has to play with. I mean, you miss
Mm-hmm.
your throw by just a millimeter out of the hand, and that translates to 20 feet out on the course.
Yep.
And if I remember correctly, he was every time I felt like I was looking at his card on UDisc Live, it was throwing second throw on fairway 1 OB
Yep.
is what it felt like all weekend. Every time I looked at his card, so that was one of those things. Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
So who's your most disappointing performance?
my most disappointing performance is Kale LaVisca.
Yeah, he was my second pick.
It's just, see, and I told you, before the show, I said you don't know who my pick is, but I wouldn't be surprised if we picked the same one.
Yep.
It's just sad.
Yeah.
And it's not to say he went out there and he played god awful or anything. I mean, he was in the hunt for that cut line until the very end, and he just couldn't pull it off on those last few holes.
Yep.
I also had considered Jackie Chin, but
Yeah.
I think nerves just got the better of him this weekend.
Right.
Whereas Kale has been out there so long, he knows what's expected of him, and he just was not able to put it together. Um, like I said, he didn't play awful. There were a lot of players that should not have finished below him that did. But Kale, I'm so sad to see that streak end. Congratulations.
307.
Congratulations to Nate for being the new longest active streak, but
Yeah.
sorry, man. Sorry, Kale. That was hard to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. 307. Can you imagine? 13 years of events without missing cash.
I, I can't.
13 years. Now Sexton has went 14 years, just less events. He's at 286.
Yeah,
So he's got a little ways to catch up, but I think that Kale's record is pretty safe for a little while at
yeah.
least this year.
Especially knowing that although Nate is going to do more touring this year than he did last year, he's still not going to be full touring this year.
Yep, and there's
So
not
that is
enough
something to
events
consider.
either way to catch.
Right.
He would have to play Silver Series, A tiers, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
which I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll. The one thing I'm be pretty confident is if he's even missing events at all, he'll be playing some local events just to stay fresh. You know what I mean? So there's a chance. um, Ben out here dropping some knowledge on us. Scott Stokely's audio for his book was recorded in Nashville.
the more you know.
The more you know.
Hey, that's
So
cool.
thanks for dropping that knowledge in here.
Yeah.
um, Now, what about FPO? Who's your most disappointing performance in FPO?
Mm. So this one might surprise you a little bit. Oh, where did it go? Because she did finish in the top five. Okay. Um, but I figured you would take the other one, so I'm taking this one. Evelina Salonen is my disappointing. Um, she just didn't look comfortable. I don't know what it was. Um, it just goes to show how good she is to still finish in the top five and not
Right.
look good. So when she gets that straightened out, she's gonna be dangerous. But as of right now, I was very disappointed. I think my um, expectations were too high. I think everybody's were for the Europeans coming over. Um, Even though Kristen still looked great. Um,
Right.
so I had to go with Evelina. I just feel like she under underwhelmed in that area. So yeah, that's my disappointment. Um, and no, like um, not throwing shade or anything like that at Evelina. She still finished great. I just would have liked to seen her in that top three.
Yeah. And one of the things I think is to be noted as well, specifically for Kristen and Evelina out there, um, there is not a whole lot of desert where
Mm-mm.
they come from. So I didn't want to pick either of them just because I kind of want to give them a little bit of a benefit of the doubt. The desert plays weird because even though it's a lower elevation, the desert air plays more like a high elevation. You kind of get this weird stability on your discs that they probably weren't used to.
Right.
And sometimes you go up there and you trust the throw that you're going to make, and it doesn't do exactly what you planned on it doing. Um, and desert winds are also very swirly. There's
Right.
not a whole lot like you get a headwind or you get a tailwind. Well, that's great. That's might be what it is off the tee, but you get 100 feet down the fairway and the wind's going a completely different direction. So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt for that.
Yeah. Like as I had said, her placement is not my disappointment. Um, I it was just like she threw the same shot every hole. You know what I
That's true.
mean? It was disappointing to see her skills. I mean, she threw a destroyer. It was like watching NASCAR. You know,
Look,
oh look,
another left turn.
she's throwing another destroyer, and here comes the hyzer putt from 45. It's
Yeah,
like I feel like when she dials in, she's gonna be really, really competing for
yeah,
that top spot. So
yeah.
yeah, that was mine.
So I have two.
Okay.
And my first one I'll go through really quickly, and then I'll go through my second one as well. Number one, Holly Finley. I picked her to be the dark horse
Mhm.
podium finish, and she didn't even make it to the last day. Um, she just looked completely off her game all weekend long. I mean, that's the easiest way to explain it. Her best round on the final day, coming in at 950 rated, just still wasn't enough. Um, to go out there, and it was mildly competitive if you just look at the third round. But her first two rounds were not. She didn't even throw a 900 rated round in round two. That
Yeah,
was,
I thought she
and
would do really well on the first course,
yeah, and
but
she didn't. She looked bad pretty much all 3 days.
yeah,
So not much more to say about it. She just didn't look good. My other one, disappointing performance is Kona Panis.
yeah, I figured that was the one that you was gonna take.
Yeah, and I had to go with two of them because, you know, the Holly thing was just disappointing for me in my heart after,
Right.
picking her to go out and play well and she didn't. But Kona missed the cut on day 3. Um and that hurts. I mean, you just went out there and got tied for the largest uh public contract in the entire disc golf world
Yeah,
for FPO, and you missed the first cut of the year.
and
Uh,
the one that you tied um, in making contract money finished third.
yep, finished third.
You know, so
And we know that Kona got a lot of her money specifically because of her
social
brand,
media,
right?
correct?
We understand that a lot of that, but there's still, and I want to touch on it because there's a possibility that she went out there not necessarily with a bloated head, but possibly the opposite, where she felt like she needed to have an outstanding weekend to really prove she deserved her contract, and she played too much into her own head. And we mentioned it a little bit at All Stars as well. She doesn't look comfortable with her bag yet. She doesn't look, like she has no idea what anything does, but she's a little uncomfortable with her bag. I like a lot of the stuff that she's changed, particularly her putt,
Yes, I agree.
but the weekend overall was very disappointing, I
Yeah,
have to say.
I'm excited to see her come back at Waco as the defending champion, and maybe with a little
Right.
confidence on her, and see how that works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're gonna do a new segment, another new
Yeah,
segment, all the new segments. Um, and this one's gonna be really interesting. This one is called "Who Am I?"
and eventually I'm gonna get a little soundbite thing of that kid from Vine. You know, the "Who am I? Who are
Wait a
you?"
minute. Who are you?
Right. I'm gonna try to get it as "Who am I?" But yeah.
So this one's not going to be anything crazy. I'm going to tell you guys right now there's a really good chance that we struggle with this entire segment and we don't get these right.
Yeah.
But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a single player and we're going to recap 3 stats. And it's going to be basically their placement, essential placement, and then 2 of the stats that they had this weekend. And then we're going to talk about um, who their sponsorship is, and the other person is going to try to guess who this player is. So this week I am doing the MPO player, and Ethan is going to have to guess that, and Ethan is going to be providing an FPO player that I'm going to have to try and guess.
Yep.
If you guys got it in lockdown, feel free to comment. I'm going to do my best while we're, doing this to avoid looking at them. So I'm making my own guesses. Ethan will do the same thing. But if you guys think you know it, guess in the comments, all right? You want me to go first? You want to go first?
Oh, that didn't work. Yeah. Um, let's go NPO first. I'll do the guessing.
Okay. I am sponsored by Innova or one of the companies manufactured by Innova. I placed between 20th and 30th at LVC. I hit 66% of the fairways, which ranked 76th, but I had an 84% scramble rate, which ranked 3rd. Who am I?
So third scramble rate, you said?
Yep,
Hmm. And between 20th and 30th?
between 20th and 30th.
What was cut line? 20.
cut line was it was like a 12, 13 down on the third day.
Yeah, but like
So they
place
took
wise.
they took 48 places plus
Okay,
ties.
so it was they made cut final day.
Yes.
Um, okay, so if the 30th. It's hard for me not to look at my phone.
And Innova, or one of Innova's manufactured companies.
See, I'm trying to run through the Innova player, but you said also Innova manufactured companies. I don't know why you would say that unless it was. But I
No,
don't.
I'm just saying it to make sure that you don't discount those players, but
Okay,
also if it is one of those players, like if I were to say Millennium, that would make it really
right.
obvious
But it
because
would.
they've only got a couple players.
It's
You know what
not
I
counting
mean?
Infinite though.
No, Infinite will
Okay.
be their own
Okay.
because they sponsor them as Infinite,
Okay. That
and
that
because
is
they can
my
throw a
only
mixed bag.
question. Um, so 20 to 30th, Innova. Not sure where he ranked, but I'm gonna go with Bradley Williams.
No,
Dang it.
since it's Tennessee twos, second try.
Okay. 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 Focus up. I don't know. Let's see here. Eh, wait. It just goes to show that. Wait.
I will give you a lot of kudos for that because Bradley did finish top 20 or 20 through 30. He finished tied for 26th.
Hmm. All right. The only other one I'm going with Nate Sexton.
Also, no.
Dang it.
Nate Sexton finished tied for
38.
37th
Yeah, I was like, he's lower than 30th.
because he finished tied with Brody Smith down there at
Yep.
37. Nope,
Okay. So
Anthony
who?
Barella.
8. He dropped to 20, below 20?
He tied Eagle McMahon at 21.
Oh my god. I thought he was. I didn't even think about it because I thought he placed in the top 20.
Yep. Yeah, he dropped down.
No. All right. Well,
Yeah, because
I done
you
figured
had
out that mine is too
Chris
easy.
Chris Pinegar and Chandler Fry
Hey, he's a fly
and
guy.
Noah all kind of jumped into that top 20 right at the end.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a big 0 for me. I had good guesses though. All right, I
Yeah,
did.
you did. You
So,
did. Like I said, we're going to do this throughout the season. Do
yep.
not expect high scores at the end of the season.
Yeah.
We're going to bet something on this at some point. We haven't figured out what we're going to bet on this yet. We have 2 segments we're going to throw some bets down on.
Yep.
Um, and this is going to be one of them. So when we figure out that bet, we'll let you know.
Right. Well, are you ready to guess?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'm not ready, but I'm ready.
All right. I placed in the top 20 at LVC.
Okay.
I am a sponsored athlete by Discmania.
Okay.
I had a higher Circle 2 percentage than Circle 1 percentage.
Okay. And then one more.
I have my other one, but
Okay.
it'll,
I'll ask for that if I get it wrong on the
yes,
first
if
guess
you,
then. How
yeah,
about that?
yep,
The only one that I can think of that placed that high would be Ella Hansen.
yeah, you got it.
Oh, strikes out with an early lead, baby.
I, um, I realized I wanted it to be, yep, you got it right, Rob. You got it right.
Oh, congrats to Rob getting it right too there.
Yep. And he's a Discmania fan too, so he knew right away.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would say that
But
was
I
because
was,
I was trying to think of Discmania that placed top 20. The only one that came to mind. I wouldn't have even had a second guess
yeah. Well,
because the only one that came to mind was Ella.
see, I could have went and done like from 5 to 25
Right.
with that, and it would have added more, like Cynthia. But um, I
Yeah.
did think that it was kind of cool that her Circle 2 percentage was 67%, and her Circle 1 percentage was 50.
That's nuts.
It is kind of nuts, but she did place. She placed sixth. So great tournament by her. But yeah,
Yeah, congrats.
yep.
Well done.
Knew before you were done asking the question. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that's gonna recap the Who Am I segment for this week.
Who am I?
We'll have to mark it down. I've taken a 1-0 lead here.
Pain.
And that's gonna move us into recapping our Hitting the Lines recap.
Look,
Um
I'm just taking fat L's.
yeah,
I
this
th-
this one's this
this
one's
is
gonna be
not
rough.
cool.
So for you guys who didn't or weren't a part of us this last week, basically what we did was we took Prize Picks lines only available whatever was live while we were broadcasting. This does not take into account any changes that they made from Tuesday to the start of the first round on Thursday, and we picked over under on all of the lines available for MPO.
Yep.
Um, and I'm just gonna run through them real quick. Ricky was a null. He hit his line. Um, Calvin was a null. He hit his line. Eagle, he hit the under 47. The line was 48. So that's going to be a +1 for you. I took the over. KJ USA had a 50.5 line. You took over. I took under. He hit 48. So I'll
Yeah.
take a point there. Um, Double G, he hit the under on his line. Both of us took the over.
Yep.
Congrats to Double G. He hit a 49 on a line of 50.5. Drew, um, he had a line of 50.5. You took the under. I took the over. And the rest of the weekend told me that I really should not have taken the over, but I had a feeling. I just had a feeling. So I'm going to take a point for that. He took a 52 on the first day. Brody Smith took a 48. The line was 51.5. We both took unders, so that's a point. James was a null. He hit his line. Chris Dickerson, you took an over on 50. I took an under on 50. He, of course, threw the hot round on
Yep.
round one with a 46. It's a point for me. Um, Ezra, let's see here. Ezra was a line of 50, and he threw a 53.
I got
You
that
took
one.
an over. You took an over. I took an under. So that's going to give you a point. Nico hit the under by half a point, taking a 51 on 51.5. We both took the under. Nate Sexton, we both took over, and he did the exact opposite of Nico. He was 50.5, took a 51. So we're both going to get a point there. Klein, we both took an over on 50. He hit 55. So we both take a point there. And Adam Hammis, um, was a line of 50. You took the over, I took the under. He hit a 48. That's a point for me. So I actually miscalculated the other day because of Ezra. So that's going to stand the score at Ethan with 6 and myself with 8.
So 8 to
So I'm
6. I'm not.
hopping out
I'm
with an
not
early
out of
lead
this
there.
yet, baby.
Oh, geez, that's all year long, man. I
I
could
got it.
go,
I got time.
one of us could go dry, completely dry.
And
So
also, would like to shout out Hitting the Lines podcast for bringing this idea up too.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were going to talk about it, but I didn't really plan on making it a segment. Um, so right now, we're going to title it as Hitting the Lines. I'm going to double check with them, make sure they're okay with it. We're
Yeah.
going to shout them out every time we do the segment, as long as they're okay with us using the name. If you guys want to know more about actual line betting and covering like what are going to be the safest options, which ones should you take the overs as they're posted, which ones should you take the unders, check out their podcast because they're going to be doing that all year long. Unfortunately, we don't have any lines to talk about this week because the lines are only going to be covering
Yep.
the Pro Tour and majors. And
Correct.
Memorial, which we're going to talk about next, is just an A tier this year. So Yeah, taking an early lead on 2 segments? Oh, that feels good. I'm gonna be eating these words in a couple of weeks. I can feel it.
I'm going to do my absolute best. I do know one thing. My Who Am I segment is going to be much harder because yours was much harder. I didn't even give you one of the clues and
Yeah,
you still
well,
had it. I'm gonna have to do a little more research.
you you kinda strapped yourself there a little bit too by using Discmania.
Discmania. I know.
Yeah.
I didn't. I was like, but I wanted to use her. I wanted to kind of
I was
spotlight.
I was thinking, and Chad, if you guys have anything to think about it, like, coming up, there's gonna be some companies that don't have a lot of players on their lists throughout this. I was thinking that, sometimes you could throw a curveball and substitute maybe their hometown as opposed to their sponsorship.
So
Um,
I didn't even tell you, but this would have gave it away even more than Discmania. All
oh
right,
no, what?
is the turned pro in 2020.
And I actually didn't even know that, to be honest. It wouldn't have
See,
helped me even a little bit.
dang.
That
But yeah,
that
that was the other hint. So
play play it only stats from the weekend. Well, the thing is that when you have to try to, have three stats that tell you who a player is, you have to have a narrowing factor, and giving us like the state that they're from or the manufacturer at least gives us that narrowing factor, because there could be 50 out of the 100 players who hit a fairway 76% of the time.
right,
So we got to have a narrowing factor, Justin, but I do appreciate the input.
yeah,
If you guys have
maybe just
inputs,
yeah,
please feel free to hand them out to us, and we can
absolutely,
add and subtract as necessary. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, with that, let's talk about Memorial real quick. It's not anything crazy. It's an A tier, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. It's not even going to
It's
be.
Paul's
It's going to
first
be.
tournament, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it's not even going to be live coverage. I don't
No,
believe,
it will not be.
except yeah, because it's not even considered a Silver Series, right?
No, it's A tier.
Yeah. So we're basically going to be stuck with nothing but post-produced coverage for that one. But we do have a big name returning with Paul Macbeth as he skipped LVC. And yeah, I'll kind of pull it up here. Look at the most notable names we have in registration. There's 103 players registered for MPO, and 24 for FPO. Um, let's see, notable names. You've got Kayla Visca, Chandler Fry, Paul Ulibarri, Paul Macbeth. Keep going on. Jeremy Colling, obviously, Barella, Gibson, Jordan Castro, Chris Clemens, um, kind of so on and so forth.
Hot
There's a
take.
there's a few euros in there, but not as many as we saw at LVC.
Hot
A
take.
lot of them are probably going to be heading over to Waco early. Um, Let me go through the women's real quick, and we'll take your hot take, every
I
little
can't
bit of
wait.
them.
I can't wait.
Uh, and then notable women there. It's a really small field, but we've got Jennifer Allen, Owen Scoggins, Hannah Blumrose, um, Maria Oliva, Kristen Tatar is going to be there. Katie Tati
Oh,
is going to be at Memorial.
Miss Nike.
Um, Miss Nike is going to be there. We did not get a chance to see her this last weekend, so that'll be a good first look. Hopefully, she ends up somewhere on some lead card coverage so we can take a look and see what we're working with. She's out of Estonia for anybody who doesn't know. But those are your notable names on the FPO side. Again, really small field, only 24 players. There's not going to be any cut lines, I don't believe. It's going to be three
No,
rounds.
no. But
Hot
hot
take.
take. Drew Gibson goes back to back. Wait. Oh, he's playing the Memorial, but he's not playing Waco, right?
I don't know.
He said that on the during the interview afterwards. I do believe that he would be at
Yeah.
Jonesboro. So he's going to play Memorial and then skip Waco and go to Jonesboro. Is
Well, he'll go to Champions Cup first,
that
and then
Jonesboro?
Jonesboro.
Oh, okay. I
No,
I don't even
champion.
know if he's going to play that.
He's on the registered list.
Okay.
So yeah, he's not going to Waco. He's not doing Texas State either. Doesn't look like.
Yeah, he said he was going to miss
Um,
the Texas swing. Oh,
yeah. He's going to Memorial, and then he's gonna go play the St. Patty's Classic. I don't even know where that is. And then he's gonna go from there to Champions Cup, and then he'll be back in the Pro Tour swing.
For Jonesboro. Okay.
Yep.
Got you. But yeah, my hot take is Drew Gibson goes back to back and he beats Paul in a playoff.
Paul in a playoff.
Yep.
Ooh.
That's my hot take.
My hot take is that Paul doesn't even make it that far. Paul misses
Ooh.
lead card on the final day.
Ooh, okay, yeah, that's a little hot take on an A tier.
Yep. Paul misses, and it's not going to be for lack of trying. He's just going to go out there and basically warm up his game and get ready for the year. Because I mean, he hasn't done any sort of hasn't done any season openers or warm up events anywhere. He didn't do LVC. He's gonna look real cold. He's gonna look Ricky cold, basically. Which what I said with Ricky pretty much came true. He wasn't gonna be in contention that much this weekend. He made one lead card, but for the most part, he was top 10 good, but he wasn't looking great.
Right.
So that's my hot take. He doesn't even make lead card last day.
Your take's even hotter than mine. So, yeah. One more thing that we have is our own tournament, correct?
Absolutely.
We participated in the Tennessee State doubles this past weekend. Um, yeah, and
Yeah.
we got to play at Short Mountain Distillery in Woodbury, Tennessee. They have two courses there, a red apple course and a white lightning course. That's right, the state dubs.
Yeah. State dubs.
And we went out there with a plan and we stuck to it. And
Yep.
honestly, we did really well. We shot what I think there was only two strokes um on the first course that we needed that we didn't get. Um
Yes.
but and
And there was
also
one on the back that
yeah,
we
and
didn't
one
get
on
that we
White
really should
Lightning
have
that
got.
we didn't get.
But
Other than
however,
that,
the one thing on White Lightning that is I had thought basically we wanted to go four down at the finish of the rounds. So I guess we missed two birdies that I wanted to get because I had expected to take a bogey there, and we actually went bogey free on White Lightning.
yeah, I'm super proud
Um,
of us for doing that as well.
absolutely. And on the first course, I wanted to be six down. We took a four down, but we did hit five birdies. We took a bogey, which again, I had expected one in there on that course as well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it wasn't. I got to be honest, they were pretty brutal conditions.
Yeah.
They were not. They were
Very
not the
muddy.
worst.
It was sleeting at some parts of it. Um, yeah, it wasn't the worst that we played in, but the conditions were there. Um,
Yeah, and they were made worse by the course because the course doesn't have any permanent tee pads yet. They're all still, with the exception of three or four holes on the course, they're all natural tee pads. And let me tell you, it rained literally from Monday through Friday. It wasn't supposed to rain on Saturday originally, and then it ended up raining and sleeting on us on Saturday as
yeah,
well. So those natural tee pads were not a fan.
yeah,
I
they did not approve of us being on them. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, which it was a little bit rough, and the wind was definitely a factor for the first half of our first round as well.
Yes.
I was flipping over some discs that I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but that disc should not have flipped that hard or in that direction or whatever it was. And luckily, my partner here kind of kept us out of trouble for the first half of the first course because I was all over the place. Um, but
Don't worry, I
yeah,
fell apart later.
yeah. So I would say we pretty evenly took each other's drives
We really did.
throughout the entire.
I think so. And there was a lot, which this is rare in doubles, but there was a lot of holes that we could have taken either shot. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we would have been fine with either shot.
Yeah.
And that's a really nice thing to have,
Oh yeah.
is is to have those options. That's awesome. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think we did good. We got to meet several people that had just followed us on Twitter, followed us on Instagram. So they seen the name Tennessee Twos podcast, and they looked us up. We got to meet some of the listeners, like Justin in the chat. Um, but yeah, I was stoked about that. Just being able to talk to everybody and see what they think about the podcast and how
Yeah.
things are going. And we got a lot of positive feedback, and that is awesome to hear.
Yes.
And we're just gonna
Yeah.
get better. It's
And
That's our goal at
yeah.
least.
Yeah, and it was honestly it was great. Like, this sounds really vain, but I want you guys to know I don't mean it this way. It was great to be noticed. And it's not that I care about being somebody popular or anything like that, but it really puts value into the hard work that we have been putting into Tennessee Two's podcast.
Right.
Because, to go out to an event and actually have people like, "Oh, you Tennessee Twos? Dude, I just followed you last week," or I just started listening to your podcast, or on our first card, we had a couple of guys who were like, "We're going to be listening to your podcast all the way home tonight."
Yep.
And
Shout
that was
out to them.
just that was
Bert.
super cool. Bert,
Bert.
Bert, you were a great time.
Yep.
Happy to have you on our first card there. That was
Yep.
awesome. But yeah, that was a good time. Those T pads. Justin saying, "How about them T pads in chat?" And let me tell you, I Ethan had one where he went up there, and I wish he had. I think he was halfway in between. I gotta bail off this throw, and I need to save my face. And unfortunately, the disc had to come out of his hands to save his face.
It went 12 feet. It went 12
But-
feet just to
well,
save the reference. Like,
there
the
there was a
disc just,
Mando.
I pushed the disc out of my hand. I didn't even let
Yeah,
go.
there was a Mando that was only 20 feet down this fairway. I swear. And if something happened where I missed the fairway, or I had a really bad throw, we could have taken his throw because it didn't miss the Mando. I just want you guys to know. But mostly I was just impressed, like, man, I don't know how you didn't just die here.
Well,
Like,
my hip almost touched my ankle on the opposite foot. That's how close to the
yeah,
ground I was. Like, I don't know what happened, but
yeah.
I
And
can
I'll be honest,
I contortioned my way around somehow and didn't hit the ground.
there yeah, there were probably like 3 or 4 holes that I planned to go standstill on from last week's practice in the
Hmm.
good conditions, and we probably ended up both of us going standstill on 30 to 40% of the holes on both courses,
Yeah,
which pretty
especially
much
after
equates
that.
to which pretty much equated to for us something like 18 or so, 15 holes probably
Yeah,
out of the what 36 that we went
36.
had to go standstill on, that, and most of those were not planned. I'm not dying for this.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah.
uh,
We was there for a good time and to meet people and get with the community, and
yeah,
I wasn't gonna put my face in mud. Preferably, is not that I'm afraid, but
yeah,
especially that was my second hole of the round. You know what I mean?
that was ooh, that was
So,
a rough one.
but however, that was one of our birdie holes.
And that
Um,
was one of the ones that we were not thinking. It was a par four, but it was a gettable par four, but there were a lot of things that needed to go right
yeah,
for that to be, because it's a hard right hand bend. There's a sneaky line if you manage to get really lucky through a tunnel of trees. There's an eagle look that is not even worth thinking about. And luckily, I just managed to get something up the fairway far enough for him to forehand one up in a circle two. And I walked up to him and we were talking about it. And I was like, all right, you play a safe bid, because there was a sharp drop off behind this basket. Like, it was going 50 feet past if you missed and went deep. And I was like, you lay it up, and then I'll go for it. And if it goes past, whatever, you'll be there. And then I stopped, and he was kind of lining it up for a second. And I was like, I'll give you $1 if you hit this birdie putt. And he's like, he literally goes safe mode disengaged.
That's exactly what I said. I said safe mode disengaged.
And he drains it. No chains, nothing, just drops it in the basket. That was the
I just
like
turned
the
and looked.
funniest thing.
I turned and looked and
And
said, "I need my dollar."
and I looked at him and I was like, "Damn, is that all we need to do to make birdies out here this weekend?"
He's like, "I'll get out of $36." Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
and
the highlight. I'm not gonna lie because I was just gonna like lofty bid it up there, but I went a little bit more aggressive with it. That way it would get there.
yep, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one. Um, and Justin he says, "Will we be here? Be at Ogwood Dream Team Dubs? Daniel will not be, but I will be. Me and my wife are playing in the mixed."
Yeah.
Doo,
We'll
doo.
probably try to play one more Dubs event. So like the thing is I prefer to play sanctioned events when it's possible.
Mhm.
But we really love getting out there as a team and as Tennessee Twos. That was really fun for us.
It was.
So we'll probably try to play at least one more doubles this year together.
Yep.
Possibly though, the next Dubs might be on my side of town as opposed to his side of town. We'll see. There's not nearly as many doubles events on my side of town, so it has to come up and be a good one.
Right.
Otherwise, I wouldn't even ask him to drive up here for it, right? So we will be at another doubles event this year, at least one. So you can count on that. We'll let you guys all know when that is.
Yep. And
But
also, um, we're gonna be doing some, cheeky stuff.
move closer.
Move closer. Was my camera freaking out?
No, I think he's telling me to move closer.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like for me to move closer, but he meant like you move from Knoxville to here, closer.
Yeah.
Okay. My bad.
It's being considered, but I can't say that it's going to happen this year. It's probably not.
But
Um,
I do I know this wasn't technically in the show notes, but I do want to shout out Shakedown. Rob with Shakedown Dies. Just look at this disc, guys. Just look at that.
look at
That
that,
is our logo on a disc.
and it looks beautiful.
It's
So
awesome.
well done.
It is awesome. We're gonna have him do quite a bit more of these. Me and Daniel will be keeping some, but
Something, something's going in my back.
we are going to be. I'm going to try to get it to where any tournament that we go to, um, this is going to be a prize at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any tournament that we go to, a CTP prize, a Ring of Fire prize, something to do. That way
Yeah.
y'all can get your hands on one of these. They
We'll
will be on all kinds
probably
of different discs too.
yeah, we'll probably try to get like some of our local shops involved, try to get some of them to donate some discs. We'll get them to Rob, and he's been gracious enough to help us out with a lot of this stuff and donate the dyeing process for free for us to give to you guys as some prizes and stuff like that. So we'll have a couple of them coming throughout the year for
That's right.
sure. Um, but yeah, that's for sure. Now let's go to the most disappointing moment of the entire tournament.
Okay.
It's
So
really it's more of a blunder than anything.
yeah, this is completely my fault, and I knew I was gonna get put on blast for this. I made up for it. Okay, that
Oh, he
circle
did.
two, I made up for it. But at the time, I was in shock because I had made such a bad decision. Um, I threw a safe shot down there, um, hung it wide. We was like 18 feet from my disc.
Yeah.
Daniel threw one towards the basket, ended up about 10 feet. Um, yeah, I was probably about, I don't know, your pig ended up about 10 feet from the basket.
Yeah, it
It
was
was in
I
a
mean, it
little,
felt really good. It felt really good out the hand. We were actually worried that I skipped deep into the creek that was
right,
behind, and I didn't.
yep. But he did,
Um,
however, land the disc in a ditch. But it was a leaf filled ditch. Okay. This was
but
like,
keeping in mind it had rained all week,
yes, but
all
the
week.
leaves looked nice, crunchy. They looked a little moist. but still crunchy. You know, it didn't look like they were soaked. Um, so the cards, like, you can take casual relief off of that ditch if you want. And I was getting ready to putt, so I was about to step up there, and Daniel was like, "Yeah, you want to take casual relief?" I said, "Nope," and I literally stepped down behind the disc and sunk. All right, and I was freaking out because mud and water was freezing and going into my shoe, and I just loft a putt up. I miss it by like 2 foot to the left. All right, and I realized after I had missed that I had made a mistake. And now Daniel is like, I can't believe you've done this. And he finds a little stick to put behind the disc and he's tiptoeing on 1 foot like a crane. And he tries to putt 10 feet away and he goes over the basket. And I'm like,
I left
this.
side chained out.
Oh, left side chained out. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Uh, and I felt horrible. I felt so dumb by not taking our casual relief and moving it 2 feet back, where it would have been a 12-foot putt instead of a wet-footed 10-foot putt.
I mean, yeah, the casual relief was like, it's basically a tap in, but I mean, he kind of just, I watched his foot sink into the water, and I was like, I
Uh
had
oh.
started to say, I was like, "Are you sure?" And then the putt was already out of his hands.
I freaked out. Okay. I panicked.
They- that was it. I had my own blunders. None of them were as notable, but I mean, I had at least one or two blunders that made up for his. So we were even. It wasn't like there was no resentment or anything.
Yeah.
But it was a funny moment that we definitely had to share.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Just try to imagine Daniel crane putting in like just tennis shoes that have no waterproofing in this puddle
He's
with a
literally
stick.
stepping on one toe on the stick. His big toe was the only thing balancing him on a stick in a water puddle full of leaves.
So it was yeah. So, but yeah, we had a great time out there. It was
Yeah, we
super
did.
fun.
It was fun.
Um, yeah, I just found myself after the round a nice new Ballista Pro to add to my bag. That
Oh,
was cool.
yeah. That's right.
Really liking that. And yeah,
Went ahead and did our disc donation as well, since we're
yep,
sponsoring this upcoming weekend for the Women's Tennessee State Championship. Um, I will be there.
yep,
My wife is playing, and I'm excited to get back out there. Hopefully, the weather's going to be a little bit better this weekend. That way,
yes,
she doesn't step in that same puddle.
yeah. That puddle was brutal. Because I have to give him credit. Because I went down there and I actually marked the disc, but I didn't step where my disc was sitting, and I was like, I mean, it looks okay. And then you just watch his foot just. And he gets back out, and I was like, "Is there water in your boot?" And he's like, "So much."
It was draining back out.
Oh man.
But yeah, that's our tournament previews. Oh wait, not previews. That's our tournament reviews and recaps.
Yep.
And we had fun. And this podcast was fun. What do you think?
I had a great time. I
All
had a great
right.
time this last weekend. I had a great time tonight because I always have a great time.
That's right.
And yeah,
And thanks,
yeah,
chat,
just
for definitely helping keep us entertained. Way to be interactive. Thank you all for all the support, the likes and the shares and all that good stuff. And
yeah.
to all of our listeners that are on audio, um, we have reached Europe. Shout out to everybody in Estonia, Switzerland, Sweden,
Norway.
Norway. Thank you guys. Thank you guys a lot. And don't forget, we are live on Facebook every Tuesday night, somewhere between 5:30 and 6 Central. And yeah, we're over here killing it.
Killing it.
Killing
Putting
it.
our bodies on the lines for you guys
Yep,
and
that's right.
content.
But yeah.
We've
So,
gone international.
yep, that's so cool. I'm so excited that we have now hit there international.
Yeah.
And shout out to everybody. If y'all don't care, please leave us a review on Spotify or Apple or wherever your podcast
Yeah.
listening um is.
So if you guys have made it this far, so we did a 100 followers Instagram.
Yes.
We are planning a 100 on Facebook giveaway. That one is in the works currently because we have hit 100 followers.
Yes.
And then I'm thinking we will probably also do a 100 Twitter followers giveaway and a when we hit 100 reviews on the audio side as well.
Yes.
Um, so give us a review. It just gets us that much closer to another giveaway.
Yep. And word of mouth helps a lot. Um, if y'all can just talk about the podcast to any of your friends, if you think that they would be interested in it, that is one of the best ways for us to grow. And you know, I'm just excited about how we're growing. This past week's been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, nothing but kind words for you guys. It's been a wild ride so far, and it's only getting better.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Um, with that being said, do you have any closing thoughts?
uh, no, not really. I mean, I'm just excited that live disc golf is back, man. I know we gotta wait another week
Amen.
for it because there's nothing this weekend, but at least we'll get something post produced this weekend.
That's right.
Just
At
to
least we'll
hold us
have
over
something to
until
watch.
Waco.
That's right. That is right. Well, all right. With that being said, I do appreciate you guys. Thank y'all so much. And we will be back next Tuesday, regularly scheduled. And, you know, maybe we just go ahead and hit all those milestones of 100 everything. Just go ahead and knock
One
that out,
week.
and we'll just do it all in,
That's three. That
yeah,
would be 3 discs to give away
yeah,
all in one
three
week.
three giveaway discs right there. I mean, it could happen, and then you just get more giveaways. The sooner that happens.
Yeah.
But anyways, thanks guys and girls. Y'all have a wonderful night and a great day tomorrow, and we will see you all later. Peace.
Peace.